Okay, we are live. We'll be bringing up Tom Sotis. This will be episode 31. If you already haven't hit like, please hit like and subscribe to FMA discussion on YouTube. And I'll be bringing up Tom now. Okay. So before he comes up, this Thursday we have I have Guru Gilbert from Canada. It's be kind of neat because I've never heard of the system. It's the Rutano Escocada Federation. So that'd be pretty interesting. It's always nice to have somebody on that is a unknown system and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be pretty good. Hopefully Tom will be coming up soon. I sent an invite. We did the test run, so hopefully things should be good. So give him a moment to get on. Hey, Mike, thanks for jumping on. How are you? Just make sure he got it. Okay. All right, he's online, so that's a good sign. In the meantime, what can I talk about? Well, next week, a couple more people. I have Maestro Philip Trocano. He's in the Philippines. Really, it's gonna be really interesting. He's really kind of dug deep in the far as the history of the FMA and the and all that. So that should be interesting. Yeah, I'm like hanging in there. Okay, we showing. Got the invite. Just see what's going on here. He's online. Maybe he's just running. Shouldn't be no issues though. Future guest. Well, I'm waiting for him. Gonna have the Lloyd DeLong. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Anyhow, he's the Piper knife system. That's he'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. Who else? Also going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a week just solely kind of dedicated to empty hand, just giving that a little more coverage. And we have Carlos Castro under Danny Sullivan for that, and we will have also on the same week. I think I will get. I'll get somebody else to have a couple people in mind. But again, that week will just be kind of dedicated to the empty hand aspect of FMA, just to kind of even out. So it's just not purely just on weapons and so forth. Steve Grody actually will be the other one. Come to think about it, just remember that. So it'll be Carlos Castro one day. Steve Grody actually will be talking about the comparison as far as the Wing Chun and FMA trapping. So that should be pretty interesting. I am just going to give Tom a call, just see if everything's all right on his end. But hopefully everything should be. I'm calling him now. Hey there. Everything okay? Oh no, I just sent you the invite. Yes, I sent you via Messenger. Okay. All right. So yeah, just hit it. I'll bring you up now. We're ready. Here, just call him. So hopefully he's getting on. All right. Hmm. Not sure what's going on. Got the invite. Give him a few more minutes, and then maybe I call him back, see what's going on. Time. Hmm. Don't know. Yeah, yeah, Mike. Hello? All right, he's online. So this should be okay. Hopefully he's coming up. Hopefully. I think it says maybe he got the times messed up is the only thing I could speculate. And I think here he is.
About that. Trying to get the new camera set up. And then,
Hey there.
sorry about that. Trying to get the new camera set up.
But I figure it was some type of glitch either on B Live's end or if you had something going on or what have you.
No, I finally got a decent camera, so.
Yeah, it actually looks very good.
Well, that's thanks to Joe Howard.
Oh, no kidding. That was nice of him. No, it looks
So,
actually.
hey, everybody, I'm sorry that I'm late and everything, and so I'm glad to be here.
No worries. I mean, I think some of the people are kind of used to it because there's with all the bandwidth being used as of late, there's been a lot of glitches. So, yeah, so no worries there. But got a ton of stuff, but I want to officially welcome FMA Discussion, episode 31, featuring Tom Sotis of AMOK Systems. And tonight we're going to be talking about his book. Welcome. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on, this being your third time. And like I've said before, you were so gracious enough to do this. You were episodes 1 and 3 to kind of get my stuff going. And I truly appreciate it.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad you're on number 31. That's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been doing a couple just because I'm so busy with everything going on. You know what I mean? It's yeah. So I just figured I might as well do a couple a week. Can you see the picture? I put your books up.
Yeah, thanks, by the way.
Yeah. No, this is a nice thing about this, where Facebook Live wouldn't allow you to bring up media of sorts. So there is a nice benefit to this going on. So before we jump into things, it sounds like your Rhode Island is opening it up. You're able to do privates and stuff.
Yeah, well, June 1st, the martial arts schools can open.
Okay.
So, I'll get the garage going on.
That's awesome, because we're Connecticut. We're still looking at June 20th, and no guidelines have been set. That's just a date's been thrown out.
Wow.
That doesn't mean like, hey, you can only have 5 in a room, and the 5 that you have in a room have to be wearing such and such. So none of that's been laid out. So who knows when that even comes around, like, let's go. So yeah, we're hoping for the best, obviously, to get things moving, but we're still out, June 20th. So.
Well, you can cross the border and come train.
No, Saturday. Matter of fact, yeah. So definitely, Saturday looks good. I'm going to touch base with you and John later. I'll set it up.
Right.
But just again, I want to we're going to cover your book. I know in the previous episodes we've kind of the system and what have you and all that. So tonight, we got a ton of questions. So I'm looking forward to that. But just before we get, I just want to just tell everybody, I really enjoyed your book. I found it compelling and profound, and just so uniquely well done. And the fact that how you covered the chapters were like there was more story oriented and small things like that. It was like a refreshing change, so to speak. So kudos to you on that. I thought that was really well done.
Thank you, Dina. I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a breath of fresh air. And it wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. I thought it flowed nicely. It's like not only that I get a journey from your perspective, but I also got a journey through different countries and all that. I just thought it was really neat and entertaining as well as informative, So, all right. So
like some questions and conversations there. So I'm looking forward to hearing what the guys want to know.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get it. So just before we jump into that and all that, what was your inspiration or inspirations for the book?
Well, for many years, people were telling me, you should write a book, and so I always had it on the back burner. But part of it's because, AMOK and some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that I'm doing need more exposure. Last year I was invited to speak at Traders for a Cause with all the top stock traders in Las Vegas. And that was a great experience to go out and speak with them. And, afterwards I got to talk with John and Pete Najarian from the MSNBC stock picks and so forth. And it was great to chat with those guys. And, they were like, tell us stories and, do you have a book? And so, a lot of people started asking me, do you have a book? And so I thought, yeah, it's time that I put one out so that I can maybe get on the speaking circuit and do some more of that and bring some exposure to what we're doing. Wow,
no, fantastic. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it was well overdue. Just going to give a chance. We got some people watching. Brian Rodriguez, hey, how you doing? Mike Frazier. Mike Frazier is David Gould's student in Mississippi.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah, great guy.
Hi,
and
Brian.
I know Big John's watching, and some others. So and all that. But before we get into the questions, you have some. I felt you have some really unique quotes. They were, I know, and I'm focusing on the quotes from you. And I know you quoted. There's other quotes in the book from other different people and all that. But as far as your quotes, I found them creative and somewhat witty. So I wanted you. Do you mind if I mention a few and you can kind of
No,
give?
sure.
All
Your
right.
show.
Karma uses me to do its dirty work.
Yeah. Well, years ago too, somebody said to me, "Oh, aren't you afraid of karma?" And that was my response to them. And so a few times in life when that was fitting, it came to bear in mind to be like, this isn't on me, it's on you. I'm not
Yeah.
initiating this, I'm responding to it.
Okay. Blood spills an undeniable truth.
Yeah,
Oh, I
well,
lost your
in the
voice.
end,
Oh, no.
blood spills that undeniable truth. So, when things get down to it, when push comes to shove, when there is a combat and there's fight, there's clearly a victor and there's not. So, that blood tells the truth over what happened there and what did it. So it's not really up for debate or opinion.
Yeah. Undeniable. I went to meet the master, but it was the student I was looking for.
Well, of course, Steve, that was all about, I wanted to go to the Philippines and meet the masters and learn knife work from the man and all of that. And so, I get there and finally, I'm watching Leo Gahe with Dave Gould. And I'm looking at that. I'm like, I came all this way here to meet Leo, but it turns out I'm looking at Dave and I'm thinking, but that's actually what I came here for. You could just clearly see side by side. I mean, the analogy or the metaphor that I use is when you like put two glasses of water up to the sunlight and you see one of them is really clear and one of them has all kinds of particulate cloudy matter in it, and watching the two of them move was to me as obvious as that. And so when you ask yourself, if I'm thirsty, what glass of water do I want to drink from, there's not really much question thereafter.
No, that's some pretty clear water down there in Mississippi. that's some pretty. Mike Frazier.
Yeah, well, pain speaks an undeniable truth as well.
Yeah, and I think his quote is that you quoted in the book was, "You're only as good as you are in this moment," and that was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you were 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, or
Yeah, right in this moment.
I got a black belt in 1978, and
But no, it's what matters right now. Okay, these are great, by the way. In AMOK, brotherhood is a verb.
Yeah, AMOK. Brotherhood is a verb. It's not a word that's to get used to sound cool and rub elbows. I mean, brotherhood is earned by making an effort and a sacrifice for another person, and having done that, if they're of good character, they're going to feel a sense of obligation and loyalty to you in return. And so therein lies that sacrifice is the currency of brotherhood.
Yeah, and you established
that's by an act.
Yeah. No, I think you've done it goes without saying, you've done a fantastic job of the unity in AMOK from, and those who are watching, I'm obviously your trainer in Connecticut. I've never seen such unity. It's just like everybody is so supportive. It's a united front. People are open-minded. There's no egos. It's literally, it's just such a welcoming breath of fresh air. And that's good on you for you instilling that and then falling down.
Well, thank you, Dean. But a lot of that I attribute to the very fact that we have no rank and no title, which I've always believed are the footholds of all martial politics. When you strip away rank and title, the only thing that's left are skill and brotherhood. And those two things are codependent. Because again, if I trust your heart, but not your control, well, you might feel bad about hurting me, but it's likely you're going to. So there's a lot of things that we might not be able to do. some high-end, live blade practices and so forth. But, separately, if I trust your control, but not your heart, and I think you're skilled, but you don't care about hurting me, or you could be reckless, again, I might not be able to do them. So you see that the skill and brotherhood go hand in hand. And as soon as there's something to be gotten other than that, it now hijacks that track. And now there's this rank or this title and this form or these drills and this thing that I can sell and that organization. And now it becomes a commodity instead of its natural thing. What you have are these secondary extrinsic type of motivations and rewards that in the end, they don't really exist. They're all artificial. The only rewards are truly the intrinsic ones, the ones that you do it just because and for no other reason. So with no rank and no title, and you also see that the other organizations that are like a pyramid, all the most powerful personalities end up near the top over a period of time because they're contained in there with a certain number of ranks, and they're all competing against each other for space and attention within this tiny little restricted area. Whereas without any rank and title, it fosters cooperation instead of that type of competition. And because we're an open funnel, nobody is in anybody else's way. So because of that, it's always a mutually supportive type of environment. Because nobody can have an agenda on another, and there are any types of jealousies or any kinds of ego things that come into it, because again, there's nothing there to be gotten that usually those things take a foothold with.
No, that was extremely well put. Yeah, and you've established that, and that's strategy compels tactics, protocol dictates them.
Okay. In any given situation, your values are going to dictate what you want to be the outcome. And that outcome is your strategy. Your strategy then gives way to your tactics, which are what are the things that I'm going to do? What are my plans to achieve that outcome? And then the actions are the techniques or the actions that you take. So you have your values, you have your strategies, and then you have your tactics, and then you have your techniques. It runs that way. So what happens is in any given situation, if your strategies are going to give way to the tactics, that means that in the moment, you're going to select what you think is the right actions or plan to make your goal happen. Protocols don't leave it to you to select. They're selected in advance for you. They direct the plan of action. And what that means is, given that situation, and then instead of then sizing it up and saying, okay, now that this is my goal, how am I going to achieve it? It says, if this is my goal, this is how I'm supposed to achieve it. And here's the benefit of doing that. That when you're under stress and in the moment that your prefrontal cortex, like kind of your neocortex, disconnects, and your capacity to solve problems and use good judgment is significantly limited and impaired. And that is why, if before you enter into a situation, you pre-examine your will and decide in advance, given this type of situation, think it through to its logical end. I'm going to be held accountable explaining this to a judge. What actions will I take that I feel that I could validate, that I could be held accountable for? And if you think about those in advance, and you lay those out in different ways, so that in most situations, if something appears, you already say, you know what, I've already thought this through. So in the moment, bang, something happens, you're dealing with a moment, you're stressed, you don't have time. You're then not trying to size it up and decide how you're going to manage it. Instead, you go, this is what I'm supposed to do. And you did that in advance. Now, of course, we're not saying hard and fast rules that are inflexible. That's not the point. The point is to not be deciding how to be getting the job done. And this is really important, because when emotions come into play, pain comes into play, lack of time, stress, and all of these other factors that affect your judgment, well, you're unlikely in that situation, in that split second, to be making the best choice. So that's why it's really important that if you say, well, if I learn to establish certain behavioral protocols for myself, given that situation, not only will I know my end goal, but I'll already have my plans on how to achieve it in place. which leave me only simply to enact them, and it leaves me a much better chance of getting that done and achieving a best possible outcome.
Wow. Great stuff. Invincibility sure is elusive.
Well, yeah. Of course, when we even ask people, is it possible to be invincible? And they say no. And then when we introduce the concept of temporary invincibility, then it opens their mind to go, oh, yeah, well, okay. And I can understand that. And then when we look at it and break that down and go, look, you see that in war, you see it in sports, you see it in emergency situations. And when they can start to say, I can recognize that temporary invincibility happens in everyday, or I should say it happens in situations, not everyday situations, but in extreme situations, then they can start to relate to that concept. So then we can look at, well, what does it take to achieve that state? And when we look at what it takes to achieve that state, then we can see how difficult it is to bring all of those elements into play, in balance and in concert at the right moment. In order to do that, and that's what it takes to achieve those temporary moments of invincibility. And then even when you do, they're difficult to sustain. And so that's why I say that it is so elusive, because it is difficult to orchestrate and sustain. And that becomes our task in training, is to raise our level of training so high that we're able to achieve it more often and sustain it for a longer period of time.
Right. Okay. No, that's right. Perfect. And my last one before we get to the questions: challenges are like mirrors. They force you to see yourself. Probably like my best. This is one of my favorites.
Well, you start really seeing exactly what you stand for, what you are willing to for, what you're willing to get your ass kicked for or not. All right. So when a situation presents itself, okay, it's reflecting back on you, your own values, your own commitments, okay, your own ideals. What is it? And in those moments when you're put to the maximum stress, do we hold up to our own ideals and principles? Do we cave into them? Do we rationalize? Do we become hypocrites? And sometimes we're totally full of honor, and other times we're total hypocrites, and we're always somewhere in between on that spectrum.
Yeah.
Our job is to recognize those opportunities as a chance to move ourselves further up that spectrum and to become more honorable people with more integrity with every opportunity that we have to improve that.
Sure.
So that's part of where that comes from anyway.
Wow. There were more, but I don't want to, because I want to get to the questions because there's so many, but I definitely want people to get some insight on your quotes, because I thought they were clever and witty all at the same time. And
Thank you.
Brian, yes, Guru Dave is on Facebook. He's in Mississippi. Not very active on it. More and all that. Mike, yes, my water's every after session. Oh my God. A reddish cloudy after every session. Oh, good, man. All right, questions.
So, questions.
So okay, folks that are watching, these questions are all concentrated around people that read Tom's book and all that and want a little more detail, or why he was inspired maybe to write about these things and all that. And I want to thank all who submitted them. Angelo, Jesse, Jalendo, Walt, John. I just don't want to forget anybody here, and Paul. So thank you all, you guys, for doing that. So Angelo, that was very nice of them. Absolutely. Okay. So Angelo is in the Philippines. You were told not to come back or suffer consequences. When you came back, did Leo have you trained elsewhere? Part 1.
Yeah, when we in the second camp that we had, the first camp was in the Marble Call Mountain resort area, and the second camp was in an area called Buenos Aires, which was also Negros Occidental, but a little bit further up and out. and we were staying in what they called was a hotel, pretty much way out in the middle of nowhere in the jungle. And the huts, which are still kind of like leftovers from the communist era from there, still exist. And they were the ones that came up and surrounded the camp that night because they heard white guys were up there, so they came up there to shoot us. And that was when Leo and his guys went out there and talked to them and said, hey, they're here with us by our invitation. And so, the Hawks, they're not trying to piss off Filipinos. They're trying to gain support. So they just kind of said, well, okay, we'll let it go this time. But if you bring the white guys back next time, we'll kill everybody. And then they left.
Now, when you say guys, so yourself, like
there was me and I think 7 other guys along with me at that camp.
At that particular camp. Okay.
Mike Williams was with me.
Oh, Mike Williams. Okay.
Todd Nolan was with me. Maybe Tony Petty. I'm sorry off the top of my head. I have all of them, but those are all together.
Okay. Part 2 of Angelo's question. If so, did you continue without any more distraction from them or all that? It sounds like you did.
No, we didn't go back there again because, back then, they used to like tag team us with one guy after another. And we had these days like from 5 a.m. to friggin' 10 p.m. every day. And, it got to the point where it was grueling and it wasn't really fun, which of course, we're there to train and train hard. But finally, I had said on the 3rd trip, I was like, hey, look, the guys will kill themselves from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but they want the nights to be free, to go out to see. They don't come 12,000 miles to see free. They want to go out and see some stuff. So
sure.
Every few days they moved us to a new location and just 12 hours of training a day so the guys could, go out and see some things and so forth. So it was a little bit different on the last one. But even then, some of the places that we went were still so far in the middle of nowhere. There was like, yeah, okay, go ahead. Then there was nowhere to go. So.
Yeah, and you're
nonetheless.
That's got to be nerve-wracking. I mean, yeah, that. I mean, but okay, Jesse, when you went to Russia, after your initial meet and greet with the first group you met, how was that? And did you guys gel? Did you go out afterwards?
So do you mean the Spetsnaz guys?
Yeah, in other words, when you were the 4th American, like your first over there and all that, I know from reading a book and talking to you that you actually, you're going downstairs in this room, sound like a basement type setting.
No, it was actually in a gym, but it wasn't actually downstairs. It was through a room and into a second room.
Okay, where they basically you're coming in and it sounded like it was a bunch of Sambo guys. Am I correct?
Well, they had guys there that were experts in different forms of fighting that were trainers that were the trainers for their guys.
Okay.
So they all kind of wanted to test what they were doing against what I was doing and kind of take a look at it. So that's why it was that was the night when our boss came with me and when Dan Boulay came with me that day. So I went in there that day and I went at it with those guys, and afterwards we had the interviews with the chief, and then we went home and got cleaned up, and then they came back and picked us up to go out for dinner. But then after dinner, they brought us out, and then the guys that I was fighting with that day and some of the other guys, they were all there, and they wanted to drink and hang out and kind of get to know me. And so they kind of like, they were really very welcoming guys.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning, but in the very beginning too?
Well, the thing is, they were under, you can imagine the stress they were under as well. We were all under a lot of stress.
No, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, here they have to hold, they're representing their country, a foreigner's coming in, their chief, whatevers are there watching over. I don't know, I'm sure it was anything but, yeah.
Well, look how hard it must have been for them, because if they were instructed just to break my back or do worse and kill me, then it would have been an easy day for them. And there would have been nobody there. It wouldn't have been anything. It would have just been a setup, and I would have been gone. So when I went in and I saw that there was a whole bunch of really important government and military men there and so forth, I thought, well, okay, maybe that's not what's going to happen here today. So when I looked over and I could see the stress on their faces too, you got to realize they're put in a position where they're not supposed to lose, but they can't hurt me bad enough where I can't continue.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts them in a very delicate position as well. So when we fought each other, there was a kind of a mutual respect where I think that they had to like do their best, but tried not to really hurt me. And at the same time, I was trying to do my best and recognize the same thing. So when there were times with weapons, when I had a little bit of an advantage, I kind of let things slide. But thankfully, when they had the advantage with empty hands, they did the same too.
Okay, so it sounds like there was some mutual respect going on and some fair play.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not a real big guy physically. A lot of those guys were really big and strong and fast and skilled. And, like their Sambo guy, he was like, ready, go. And I was like, tap, 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 tap,
I think nothing yet. Many of us would be in that, the majority of us would be in that same predicament,
Oh, yeah. So, as soon as we're off, he kind of bows and he goes to leave. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, come back. And he was like, he thought I was challenging him. And I said, okay, can we do this again? I go, but this time when my body hits the ground, can we call that the tap? Because I don't know if I can get my hand out there a second time.
Yeah, if you don't know how to break fall.
Oh. Well, they all kind of laughed, and he locked me up pretty quickly, and I tapped out. Then we got up and we bowed, and I earned some respect because I got my ass kicked, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, right. You're being honest with the results, and I think that's, I don't know, to me, that's appealing. You know what I mean? Well, you're being honest.
Well, afterwards, when I got interviewed, the newspaper said, well, what do you think of our fighters? And I said, well, there's 100 guys in that room, and I'm fairly sure at least 99 of them can beat me up. And then they said, well, why would they then ask you to stay and train them? And I said, well, they're not just tough guys, but they're really smart too. So they want to pick my brain in case there's something they can use.
Sure.
And they were like, oh, okay. So that's kind of how we.
Sounds like they were open-minded and, end up being a great bunch of guys.
Well, the entire country was being really open-minded because the lid had come off after all those years of communism, and the country was just beginning to wake up. So they had this incredible curiosity and thirst, and they just wanted to know and see all that they could because they had been so contained for so long.
Yeah, right. Here comes right, and so they're seeing like a foreigner come in. That hasn't maybe been there, or they haven't seen God knows how long.
And not only that, but an American.
Yeah. Like
other than the two Jehovah's Witnesses and Dan the breathing guy, I was the fourth guy, the only American that had been there like in 75 or 100 years or more.
Yeah, no, I recall you telling me that, like, you were the fourth one, and how your friend there, Dan, coordinated everything. So when you went out at night, sounds like it was a good. Sounds like it was a fun time with them. And
because. Then, the chief asked me if I would stay behind and work with the teams and stay for a month at a time and go back and forth. And, I started to meet with the guys, and a lot of those guys were, they were really interested, wanted to learn and wanted to train. And, there was a couple of them that were there because they were supposed to be, and that's okay too. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I met a lot of really good guys over there. And at that time, the country was in great turmoil, and the mafia, the organized crime over there, was so incredibly powerful and preying on, it was restructuring all of society. A lot of what was the KGB or intelligence societies, they were forming as well. And so there was a lot of strife going on at that time. And, so the guys that were there that were actually, that I was training were actually fighting inside their own country against organized crime, trying to stabilize the country with the government. So I was training the government guys, but also a security company that was in league with them against organized crime. So at the time, it wasn't very popular with some of the organized crime figures there as well. And that led to some tenuous situations here and there.
Yeah, which we'll we'll leave a few of those out. Jalendo is going to is asking about Africa. What did you like about teaching in South Africa? Were there any things that stood out, maybe as far as the participants, what you were teaching, anything like that?
Oh, there's so many things about South Africa that I actually loved being there and being with those people, because they live in a dangerous place.
Yeah, I hear. You don't hear much about it, but I was talking to
Oh,
this Lloyd, and I guess it's scary down there, huh?
most
Pretty
people
bad,
have
huh?
no idea. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, it's a clash because the country is so incredibly beautiful. But then there are pockets and areas that are so incredibly dangerous and violent that
Yeah.
those two things are clashing together, and you can go from one place to another, into another, into another, where you go from okay to not okay to okay to not okay very quickly.
Mhm.
But that said, the people that live there, they have a mentality of survival. They need self-protection. Most places that we go in the houses, they have bars not only on the windows, but even inside the homes, inside the hallways to slow down the, attackers and home invaders getting through
Wow.
the hallways and so forth. They have to reinforce the rules. I mean, the measures they have to take just for everyday safety and security are already so elevated. So when we go to teach self-protection, we don't have to deal with, oh, well, what if you do this or what if that, or, with people that are, tender mercies and worried about, defending themselves. Or the mentality of defending yourself, or people that go, oh, I don't know if I could do that to somebody. I never heard that once in South Africa. They had already had that settled. They already know under certain conditions
Wow.
things I'm willing to do, and I'm here to learn how to do them.
Yeah,
And
geez.
there's just no bullshit about it.
Yeah.
And they
You
don't
know,
have to sugarcoat it, and they don't have to make it to be something that it's not, to try to make themselves feel better about it. All right. There's no virtue signaling going on. It's survival. And so I really like the honesty by which we got to approach the entire essence and nature of what it is that we were doing and why we were there. And I really like it.
yeah. The things that obviously that we take for granted. I mean, you're not, I mean, obviously we all seen bars and windows in particular parts of our country, but what you described inside the actual dwellings, that's a new one.
Oh,
Wow.
it's crazy. I mean, you go to places where in a lot of neighborhoods, it's common practice for them to poison some of the liquor bottles in their home, because they know when their home gets broken into that those people will steal all their liquor and go out and
Oh,
drink
the
it.
liquor's gonna go.
All of them will die. Right. So this is what I'm trying to say. It's very hardcore over there. But when you think, oh, well, how is that bad? Well, even one of the police chiefs had a samurai sword put on a car spring that was put underneath, that was pulled underneath his car. So when they come up to carjack him, he hit a button, it'd come out and cut their legs off. Or another one would spray them with gas and light them on fire. I mean, it's a hardcore place.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a couple of people, and I knew they had their issues down there and all that. But I'll be the first one to admit, I had no idea that it's pretty bad. So talking to this other gentleman and yourself, yeah,
No,
wow.
and you
So,
better
but
even try to tell anyone about it, because then they'll just call you names. So you should instead just send them links so they can go and see for themselves.
oh, they don't want to hear it. It's like, oh, yeah,
Or they'll
yeah.
call you names.
Oh, jeez. And
No, so what I'm just saying is that kind of reality strikes people so strongly that they run back into their denial mechanism and call you a name because they don't want to hear it. I
yeah, they don't
mean,
want it right. They don't want to believe it. And just for the viewers, what year? I mean, just around what time again were you going down there?
I went there for a decade from 1998 to 2008. I went every
Oh,
year.
okay, all right. So okay, all right. Wow, 10 year. Okay, you say you had a 10-year run. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were liking your stuff. I mean, okay.
Oh, it was
Oh,
great. I
yeah.
mean, by 2008, we had 20 trainers in a country that's the size of Texas, and they were rocking, training
Wow,
hard,
I bet 20.
going. They were interacting and working together. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Walt.
Hi, Walt.
Yeah,
What
Walt's
do you got
question
for us, Walt?
is: you're over there, you meet that guy from Mississippi. you meet you meet that you meet I've never been hit by a grown man so many times, but you meet that guy from Mississippi. And that interaction, so not the initial meeting, but the overall time spent, really solidify AMOK and its functionality versus other FMA styles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's hard to say other FMA styles because it may apply to some and not to others, and then they all get offended and so forth.
No, I know. We'll just leave it
But
generic. Yeah.
well, what I can say to answer that was, when I met Guru Dave, I could see right off the bat that was exactly what I was looking for, because again, there's how good are you in this moment? And then there's the truth of that speed and power. And then you get hit with that. And then you go, okay, you know what? I've learned several stick systems complete, even though I don't talk about any kind of certification and everything else, complete. And I met Guru Dave, and with his forehand, backhand, he undid everything else that I had ever learned. So when you look at that, you start to go, well, okay, either I'm going to become a martial ostrich and say, well, I like doing that other stuff and go back to the stick clicking drills because that's what I like. Or you say, well, wait a minute, I'm actually here to learn how to fight in case I need to actually use this. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. And that's when you go, well, okay, if this is what it's going to take to learn, here we go. And it's not going to be the easy path, but you're learning true, because you can do your very best to hit him. Good luck. And then with ease, he can hit you.
Oh my
And if
God.
that alone is not the only yardstick of measure that you need, I don't know what else would convince you.
Well, also you're not getting an argument from me with, when I first asked you, when his name came up when I was at your place and you were telling me about his counters, I'm like, well, I had to see this for myself, and I'm not so sure that was the best decision because I'm still seeing them and feeling them. And but much to your point, and Mike Frazier, living down there, who sees them once or twice a week. Yeah, that guy. I know you've always spoke highly of him. You've always given him tremendous respect, and he's a huge fan of what you're doing. That you created that first knife system right from the get go. So there's such an even respect for the both of yous, and I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, thanks. To answer his question a little bit more, I went there, I went looking to validate the work that I was doing, and I found out that what I was doing was shit. But Guru Dave, he showed me how to turn it into gold. He said, look, this is the path, this is the direction. If you want to do the work, you got to go in that direction, and then you can turn that. Okay, that's like Dave's alchemy. It'll turn your shit into gold. So that said, if you're willing to do the work. So Guru Dave, we brought him in a number of times. We did seminars. He gave us the information. He gave me the principles. He helped share with me the concepts of how to move that forward, and then left me to see if I would do the work. And we did the work. So that's why I say, yeah, he put us on the path, and that's why where we are today.
Wow, yeah. I mean, like I said, you've always given credit to him, and all that. Just when you, again, just for the people, was it the first day at camp you met him? I mean, like, I know he came just to pay respects to Guy Hay. I think he came with Greg Alland, R.I.P. Incidentally.
We all went together on that first trip.
Okay.
And in fact, we stopped in LA on the flight over, and that's when we met Dave the first time, Guru Dave, at the airport. And then he flew over there with us.
Oh, okay. So, this is new to me. Okay, I didn't realize that you guys all met there. So you're just thinking like this is just probably another guy or
Another guy.
whatever. I mean, that currently lives in California, but
Yeah. Some surfer dude guy, whatever.
so
But,
then you get over there, and then you guys are obviously training, and then I'm guessing by his movement, you were kind of you saw how he stood out. Is that accurate? Fair?
yeah, right away. I mean, as soon as we were the first day moving around, and I looked over and I watched them moving, I looked over and I was like, ta-da!
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember you went over to him with like, if I and I hope I'm quoting this correctly as far as my memory. I think if I recall correctly, you went up to him and say like, "What are you doing here?"
I did. I said, this day, this is what I said. Why are you here?
And he probably looked at you like,
He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's nobody in this field that can even move halfway as well as you. I mean, why are you even here? And he's like, I'm here to learn. And I was like, right on. I can respect that.
yeah. Okay, good. I'm so glad I recited that correctly.
Guru Dave, he's being respectful. He's training. It was one of his teachers' teachers.
Mm.
So he's there paying homage and working hard.
No, absolutely.
Guru Dave is just always very respectful and very mindful of everybody who's came before him and his debt and gratitude for all of that. And he takes every opportunity to say it and show it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I learned and that I respect about Guru Dave.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's true. So then, and how long were you guys there together? Like, how long was the camp?
I think the first camp was like 10 days or 2 weeks, something like that.
So, wow, I didn't know they were that long. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were long camps.
So obviously early in the morning to God knows when, and
5 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day.
Wow.
I remember Guru Dave gets up one day, he goes, yeah, you're at training camp and you get up in the morning and all you can smell is Ben Gay.
That's right. I remember. Yep. Wow. So during those times, was it mostly just Guy Hay just showing stuff and you guys just kind of running through what he's showing you? I mean, is that pretty much?
Well, a lot of times we'd go out on the field and it would be 2 hours of footwork. And so he might do 5 minutes of it with us. And then he'd send Baldwin in there for a while. And then Ramel would come in for a while. And you know what I mean? And then Baldwin and then James, and they would kind of tag team us a little bit and so forth. And and then break for 30 minutes for breakfast and back. And, it was a lot of, you get your blade, here you are going all the way around the field.
Yeah, I remember doing that in my PKD.
I'll go the other way. It's like I came 10,000 miles. It's like, that's a long time to be doing the same thing.
I remember during my PK days doing that.
So again, I understand at any rate.
But I mean, it sounds so obviously, but I think it's obviously fair to say that you guys became kind of, friendly and and I'm sure shared some fun times together, right? I mean,
with Guru Dave?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. With Guru Dave, it was a great time. He's a great guy, and right off the bat, he was somebody that you could speak to honestly and truthfully because he was going to speak to you that way too. And it was such a breath of fresh air that you didn't have to have any kind of pretense or you didn't have to be careful of any politics or bullshit. If you were just being honest about what you felt, that was enough for conversation, and it was just great. Hey, look, there's somebody here who knows really what they're doing. They've been around, they know the score, and you can talk to them straight out and get a straight answer back.
Yeah. I mean, and just for those who are watching, because everybody associates, Guru Dave with Ameko, but he was on his way up in PKT. I mean, he was, Guy Hay had from my understanding, had some big plans for him. I guess, we could leave that. But just so people understand that Dave definitely did some significant amount of time under Guy Hay via meeting him through Dan and Asano and all that. But so as far as anything else, I mean, with Dave, like obviously, I think it's fair to say, you guys, the moment that camp ended, you kept in touch with them, right off the.
Oh yeah, I was right back out in California in his garage.
Oh, so you weren't. Oh, so the moment you got back, you flew out to him.
Yeah, sure. And then from there, then I started bringing him back to the East Coast, and a couple of times a year he'd come out and do seminars out here and try to introduce him to the people in New England, and he'd take care of my guys, and we just started working through the material, and so that he put me on the path, but he kept me on the path too for quite a while. So he was awesome. He gave me complete guidance and independence. He gave me support without trying to put his thumb over me, and it was just great. It worked out awesome. All these years later, I have great respect for him.
Yeah, no, you hit something there. Like, one of the things he told me was, your journey is your journey. It's your journey. You know what I mean? Like, you are, you are the most important thing. It is your journey. And I don't know that was profound. As many things as from you. Like, you two, like I tell many people in the knife world, you two are it. You know what I mean? In my opinion, anyhow.
Thanks for that.
So, all right, just got some nice comments here. I just figured we take an opportunity to share them. If that's okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Brian Kanata, really enjoyed the book, Tom. Mike Frazier, you need a drum and smoke signals to communicate with Guru Dave. Only man that does not have a cell phone. Hey, Frank, thank you for jumping in. Yes, Edgar taught well. Guru Dave traded for guy here in a long time. Yes, sir. Chad Bailey, great to hear stories with Dave. Yes, it is. He was training today. Yep. Why did he leave and go to Lamego? Ryan, he left, and Mike can probably chime in more. He bought some gear from PJ Edgar. And when the gear came in, he went over to PJ Edgar's and he demonstrated with the gear on, and Dave could not believe just the feeds, the power, the accuracy. And Dave, after that, did a private, and that's kind of what you wrote. And Mike can obviously chime in more if I had left anything out. Chad Bailey, much success with your book, Tom. It was a central read. Highly recommend. Nice, very nice of you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad.
All right, next question. Paul, what was the state of martial arts in Russia at the time when you went?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Paul. When I first got there, the guy that became my host, he was the head of a security organization. They had like 2,700 men, and they all trained in Kyokushin. It was the Kyokushin karate that was very, very strong. And Vladimir Lobanov at the time, he was the head of the Kyokushin karate in all of Bashkortostan, the Central Republic. So they were very, very strong with that. Real strong fighters too, the first time I went in to train them, they had some of their guys sparring, and they were like, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, "Well, I hope I don't have to fight too many of them today." They're really tough. Russians tough. I loved it. But see, the thing is, martial arts had been illegal in Russia for many years, and if you got caught teaching, you would get 10 years in a gulag in Siberia, which was.
I never knew that. Was that during the communist realm?
Yep. It was during that it was illegal. And so they had to train underground in secret, like seriously in secret. And what they did was there were 5 instructors, and they brought me around to meet each of them. And they were like all kind of old guys, and they all defied the ban, and they all trained people privately. And if somebody smuggled information or got information from one of the other countries from a magazine or an article, they would take that and they would like trace the figures in it and then translate it. And then they would send the article to the next person and they would do the same. And it would go all the way around until it got back to the person who had it. And then they would keep the original. And so this was the way that they transmitted information secretly from one to another to another. And they gave me one of those books, which was just really awesome. It's one of my cherished possessions, you know.
Actually, you know what? I think you might have shown that to me in your office.
So also at that time, they pulled me aside one night and of course pulled out the vodka, and after having a few shots they said, we want to show you some videos or we want your opinion, what do you think? And they showed me some videos and there were some really like pretty big guys, a little bit husky and so forth, but they were moving like really soft and slow and so forth, like almost soft kung fu-ish. And then when the attacker would come in, they would do their thing. And they said, what do you think of this? And I said, well, said, you know, that they're such big men and they're moving so smoothly tells me that they're up to something very interesting. But it's hard to judge unless you're there and so forth. I said, but I find that it's interesting. And they said, well, because it's very different than anything we've ever seen. They said, you know, we have Kyokushin, we have Judo, we have Sambo, but we've never seen anything like this. And then they told me, well, it's a secret thing. It's called the system. And this is only taught to the president's bodyguard.
The system.
The oldest, like bootleg Sistema tape demonstrations, even that I still brought back with me.
How fascinating!
And so it was that they even then in their own country they were only beginning to wake up to that, as far as that being more open.
Wow,
But that's how it was presented to me, anyway.
So is it fair to say what you saw back then is different what people are seeing now as far as that system?
Well, it's very hard to say because the demonstration that I saw on that old VHS tape was a shitty old thing. And, you know, it's very hard. Though it was probably, if not the origination of modern Sistema and what you're seeing today. And that's my assumption of that's what it was, because they said, look, it's called the system. And it's only for the president's bodyguards, and it's really secret.
Wow. Huh. That's interesting, because, I mean, how that, So, all right, so then when you went there, it sounds like then with the communists going all that, everybody was able to kind of train freely, systems came back and stuff?
Yeah, systems were open. So, like, you know, there was a kung fu guy who had a school, and I went and I watched his class for a while, and then it was kind of almost like a Tai Chi type of activity. And then there was another guy, he had an amputated arm, but he used to teach kickboxing, and all of his guys fought really good, and he was a very highly respected coach. And even his guys used to say, don't let him fool you. They said, even with his one hand, he'll hurt you. You know, so he was an interesting guy. I have pictures of all those guys upstairs. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of those guys from the underground and what they were doing. It was very interesting. And
no, wow, it sounds it. And then everything came back to life when the communism got removed.
And that's why when I got there, they were like, well, you know, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm not doing traditional martial arts of any kind. You know, I'm doing my own thing with four themes theory and analytical combat and the Blade Guild and so forth. And, you know, and I was just, you know, I was doing some FMA with Greg Allen and stuff at that time. And so they were like, well, show us what you're doing. I'm like, great, because I was just there. I went for a martial research expedition. I went there to share. I didn't expect that all of a sudden they would be like, hey, we want you to be teaching all of us. And I was like, okay, you know.
Wow.
So it was a surprise.
Just for the folks who are watching, this is what year again?
This is 1994.
Wow. Seems like well, I shouldn't say a lifetime. I mean, wow, 26 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Or no, more than, 20, wow.
You know, today's people, that if you're not old enough to really remember the Cold War, then much of that of these stories don't really have much impact or meaning to you. But
Yeah, right. For us that know what it was like at that point, I mean, that was pretty major. You know what I mean,
Well, that's why, like, after that, the night that I fought the Spetsnaz guys, and then they all took me out drinking and stuff. And after they tied one on, they were just like, man, we just really wanted to be able to, say thanks to be coming out with us and drinking. They said we wanted to be able to talk with you because we don't really get to talk with you at all during the day. And they said, we just wanted to kind of get it, see what it was like. And they said, you had really big fucking balls to come here. We really wanted to meet you for that.
Yeah, no. Well, here's the thing. I mean, they generally they had to be curious.
So, yeah, they were really good about it.
Yeah, I mean, they had to be curious. You know what I mean? Like, what you're about and all that. I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Well, it was funny because there were times like somebody would have me as a guest at their house for dinner. Usually every night somebody would bring me somewhere. They set it up so that I never had to worry about it. And it was funny because after dinner, like we'd be having a few drinks, and sometimes their comment was, "Well, we were really surprised with your conversation." And we were like, "Well, why?" And they said, "Well, we kind of thought like you were going to talk about money and like capitalism and stuff all night."
Ah. So it was like
that's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Said, well, as an American, you'd have to actually be making money to be talking about that.
To be talking about money.
That's not really in the conversation right now.
So obviously they were pleasantly surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have 4 questions from John.
Okay.
Okay. All right. First question. Any backlash from any of the comments or the paragraphs that you referenced, from people or anybody from that matter regarding that? And don't mind this. I'm just getting some popcorn, okay?
Yeah. No.
I couldn't help myself. I had to.
I'm there with you.
So I'm going to just let you take the ball and run with this.
Well, no, I haven't had any backlash at all. I mean, I didn't.
Wow.
I don't really. I can't really imagine that there was much room for any.
Based on the facts and all that, I guess maybe what John was maybe thinking, like some of the people that are still not the old guard, because there's very few of the old guard still with him, but some of these newer ones that are with him, that he's got them, like a better way to put it, hook, line, and sinker. Well, I thought maybe a few of them would have chimed in,
It's kind of funny to say that because in a way, what level of irony would it be for them to challenge me because he betrayed me for standing up for him in a challenge?
No, yeah.
I mean, the irony of that, and then I would be like, and what would you expect him to do for you after this?
Yeah.
That would be my question. In other words, what do you expect to get out of this? Other than what, stabbed in the back? Because if frankly I was guardian of those systems for his kid and all that, what makes you better? So in the end, I don't. That's why I don't really expect any backlash, because it would be ironic and silly for any of those guys to try to say or do anything about it. And if they did, I wouldn't care. And what's Leo going to say? Because in the end, he's guilty for what he said and what he did, and that's that. And so is Petronelli. What's he going to do? Challenge me?
No.
Please.
No. I mean,
so in the end, I don't really expect that there will be any backlash. There really isn't any room for any. And if there is, I think it would be interesting and humorous.
Yeah, I think you're safe because, again, the old guard, they know. I mean, and if they say they don't know, they're lying. You know what I mean? I mean, they know. I mean, anybody who has some generational experience in FMA and has been around the block per se, whether you did some time with SEOC or Atienzas, whether you liked it or not, you heard the PKT drama, whether you wanted it or not. I mean, you were fed it, and I was one of those recipients. And I got a boatload and from you and other people and yeah. Again, I'm not surprised you didn't hear anything because I don't think, like you said, none of them would have a leg to stand on, So.
Well, look, I'm not a PTK guy. I don't have anything to do with Pakiti Tirsan. I never have.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a relationship with Leo, and that was it. And I didn't say anything poor about Pakiti Tirsan.
No, you didn't attack it. Correct. Yeah,
and I did about the value of his certifications. Because all of those things are true, and I've said them to him, and I would say them to his face, or I wouldn't say them at all. But I didn't say anything bad about the system itself or anybody else that was there because that wasn't the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, Mel Tortel and Baldwin Garucho are still, in my opinion, they're still my brothers. I am happy to see them doing well and traveling and teaching and being successful. And they worked 20 years for those 2 Horn titles. They didn't get them after a couple of seminars. Those are the guys that did the hard work.
No, Mel. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about him. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Those are the guys that, that I have contact with. The other guys there, I don't know, and I'm not involved with any of them. I trained with Mel and Baldwin in the Philippines, so we go back to being dog eaters together.
Yeah. No, I've heard nothing but good things about those guys. And Brian Rodriguez, loving this. Thank you, Brian. Brian, I'm going to have to mess you on that because why so much drama in PTK? That's a whole... I'll message you privately. And is this in the book? Some of it is in the book, Brian. Yes, definitely get the book. It's on Amazon. I'm going to cover that at the end, where you can see that for sure. All right, question 2 from John. Why did you travel to California? Was it work? And why did you come back?
Yeah, well, at the time, though, a Vietnamese family had escaped from Vietnam. They were a refugee family that they had gotten out of Vietnam and they were in the camps in Hong Kong. And I was dating a young lady at that time who, that was her family. And when they came here, they wanted to settle in California. So I was like, yeah, I'd like to see California. So we moved out there to settle them and help them put their roots down. And while I was out there, that was when I had gotten that job where initially I was training store detectives in the gang warfare sections of LA, and then I was bounty hunting at night and so forth. And that's how I ended up doing that for a couple of years before I came back. So when I came back, that's when I came back to go back to school and open my own agency.
Okay. Roger Goulis, real deal, Tom.
Oh, Roger? Oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah, Roger, yeah. Thank you, Roger.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. While you were there, question 3 from John. While you were there, did you look up any other Filipino masters such as Cabales, Hiron, Villabril, or even Guru Dana Asano while you were there?
No, at the time, I wasn't really into FMA. I was a kickboxer, and then I was on the street fighting every day. Because of that, I didn't really want to go back to dojo fighting. I was fighting 2 or 3 times a day. I was just loving it. And, I mean, there were days we had to tape up our hands just to go to work or, and stop and just, we always had a first aid kit for our hands and so forth. It was just an awesome job. So, in fact, at that time, Nick Serio came out and he went to train with Fumio Demura. And so I used to pick him up and take him to Fumio's house every day. And we went.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we spent time with Fumio and then with Tashi Masha and with Chuck Norris and Mike Stone, and I got to know all those guys.
How interesting.
It was an interesting time. And back then, Nick said, hey, while I'm out here, he said, I'll test you for your black belt, and then you can open the school, and I'll be nationwide.
Oh, I remember this.
I said, yeah, thanks, but no. And I thought he was going to be upset, and he was driving his car, and he looked at me, and he goes, you don't want to do that? And I said, no. He goes, I get it. So he was actually cool because he understood that I really wanted to fight. I don't want to be, back in dojo fighting again.
Yeah. No. Right. You were, he probably saw, the path you were taking. I mean, like what you were doing. I mean, he probably knew that you had a journey, and he probably had respect for you and devote, and admiration for you. Probably didn't want to interfere with that,
No, he was just waiting to try something later on. And he did.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I learned a lot of lessons.
Yes, Brian, definitely getting it. Yeah, like I said, I will message you later. Roger, I'm a fan of Tom. That was nice of you, Roger. Hi, Dean. Hey, Roger. Question 4 from John. Good questions from John. The 4 themes. Can you expand on them as I have found them personally to be most functional?
Thank you for that question, John. It's typically that's not a short answer, and typically you don't get any short answers from me to begin with. But 4 themes really is it's a tool of exploration. So for the most part, what it does is it says if somebody shows you an idea, hey, look at this technique. It allows you to look at it and go, wow, hey, look at this. And then you can actually, it gives you a way to pattern out all the possible places where you could achieve that and do it. So that you can then start to go, hey, I could do that move from here or here or here or there or there or there. And so it opens up all kinds of possibilities for you. So as a tool of exploration. And it does a whole lot of other things in terms of being able to help you flow in the moment from one thing to another. And when you get bound up in a moment, to unbind that. So 4 themes has a lot of uses in terms of, especially when you get into real self-protection and you're getting into facing off with somebody and you're looking at how are you properly closing the gap and what are you seeing, what are you recognizing, what cues are you working off of, what kind of entries are you playing with, and so forth. And that's when it becomes tactical, so to speak, rather than explorational. So it can be used tactically, but it can be used as a tool of exploration as well. Thank you for that question, John. And I don't really know how to go down any more of that without taking too long.
No, I thought that was good. And just for the people who don't, and you can obviously correct me on this, sir, the 4 themes being front, back, front, back, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are
in a nutshell. In a nutshell. Yep. Okay.
And then those 4 themes are utilized by the hands and the legs on the inside and on the outside. Okay. And then they start to break up. So those 4 themes might go high, low, high, low. Or like with our blades. When we go through the, in AMOK, when we look at sparring and we look at the configurations, we will look at the 4 themes of our feet. Right, left, right, and right, left. Okay. And then blade. My right hand, your right hand. Right, left, right, left, and left, right. Front, forward, reverse. You see what I mean? So the 4th helps you move through the different configurations of things to pattern them out to make sure that you've covered all of those bases. So that's another way in which you can apply that tool, because it applies to the human body that way.
No, it's fascinating. And part 2 of this question, was the reference of grandma's 2 arms and 2 legs the precursor for this?
No, it wasn't actually, though. That's an interesting connection to make. But no, that was my grandmother telling me it doesn't matter whoever else you get up to fight. They have 2 hands and 2 feet, so you have the same.
I remember that reference. Yeah.
So again, that gave me confidence in times when otherwise I was at a marked disadvantage.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, when I was talking to you about this, You had developed this very early on. And I remember, and the reason why I remember this because I was actually really taken back and impressed at the age you did this, because I was thinking that the age that you referenced what I was doing, and I think I was wandering around a college campus. Um, but it was in your early 20s. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like what? Well, I have to ask this. Like what did like how did you like what made you develop it? Like what? I mean, like what inspired you at that early age? Hey, you know what? I'm going to come up with this thing that's going to actually be one of the backbones of my system for decades to come. I mean, I think it's for that age, to me, it's pretty inspiring. Like, were you just constantly thinking? I mean, what was it?
Well, what happened was too is when I was in LA and we were getting in fights every day, I started really coming down to some more essentials of entry. You know, it used to be your hands are up, 1, 2, and you're doing your moves. But when you're facing off with somebody and they're striking and moving at you, the postures and angles are different than that. So one of the things that I began to when I was training all of the store detectives, and I used to resource them from the karate schools too, so they could already fight. But when they came in, I always gave them the first couple of drills. And the first drill they got was when we'd have somebody throwing hooks at them from side to side. And when that hook would come in, they would block and hit, or block and hit, block and hit, block and hit. So when something came in, when one hand came up, the other one automatically went in to hit. It wasn't block and then strike. It was block
No,
and strike. Okay. That was
simultaneous. Okay, okay.
the second drill. Instead of going block and strike, it would go block and then block strike. Because a lot of times when they throw that first strike, if you didn't see it coming early enough, you weren't able to block and hit. You were lucky just to block. And if you then didn't take the initiative to move off that, they would start unloading strikes and you could end up in an irreversible defensive position. So therefore, in order to recapture the initiative, when somebody strikes real quickly and you were blocking out of a reflex where you were reacting, not acting on the cue, but reacting to it. So the second drill allowed us to then go block, block, hit, or block, block, hit. So that if somebody surprised us and one hand went up, we know the other one was coming in, you'd cover your face and then hit, and then we would follow up. And let me tell you, I can't tell you how many guys would come back and they're like, man, I got to tell you, those first couple of drills, just a couple of moves, they're like, it's amazing how easy it is now. And I almost never get hit. And I just kept getting hit in the face all the time. And it's true. I was
No, you know what? I think what a trendsetter you are, because what people tend to do that are not trained, they get in that cycling, you know what I mean? And obviously, being intuitive as you were, figure that out and realize that, hey, you know what I mean? So I think that's fantastic. Wow. At 22.
So we did those, and then we added the front kick to it, to either kick them in the balls or to use a kick into the thigh with the shoe or the toe and so forth. So you go block, block, hit, and either you hit them and they fell back and you kicked, or a lot of times they'd pull back, boom, and then you'd fire in low and attack their foundation. So and then it would open it up for the rest of it. So that just became like a way in which when we'd stand there, excuse me, sir, I'm a store detective, I need to talk to you. And sometimes you'd have a badge in your hand, you'd have to drop it and act as well. So we started working out those scenarios because it's what we were facing every day. And then it became a lot easier. So when I came back to the East Coast, I went back to the Kenpo school, and then when they were back to doing this for self-defense, I was like, well, how come we can't put our hands up and deal with it? And they're like, well, you know, you got to start somewhere. And I said, yeah, well, how come the fourth and fifth dons are still doing that? When does it end? How come we get to do that? When do we get to do that? And so I used to get in trouble for asking those kind of questions. And then finally, when I had my own school, I used to work on it on my own. And for many years, I've had lucid dreams. You know, where you're half asleep and you're just starting to wake up, but you're still dreaming. For my life, I don't sleep well, but I have a lot of lucid dreams. And early on, when I was trying to think of something, I fell asleep one night, and then I had a lucid dream that I was saying, well, look, that I was explaining to somebody, you can only block with this hand or that one, and then you can hit with either hand. So I can block and hit, or block and hit, or then I can block and hit, or block and hit. So there's only 4 things that can happen, no matter how you choose to do it. And I woke up and I was like, whoa! And I remember I got on the phone and I woke up a friend of mine. He's like lived in Fall River, and he's like, "What's the matter?" And I said, "It's urgent." He goes, "An emergency?" I said, "No, but it's urgent. You have to come over right now." So in the middle of the night, he drove over to my dojo, and we spent like 20 hours or something and working that all out, and we put it all together, and that was the foundation of 4 themes in analytical combat.
Awesome.
And that took off real well. I was doing lots of seminars with those. It was really popular, and people were enjoying it, and that's what I was introducing in Russia when I first went there too.
I mean,
we still do it in AMOK.
Functional, bare bone. I mean, wow. And what year? I mean, I know you mentioned you were 22, but again, just about what year was that? Or
that was 1981.
81. That's impressive.
Because I'll show you something. Check this out. So this year, on July 19th.
Oh, you showed me the trophy. Yeah.
That was from the kickboxing title.
No, I know. Yeah.
40 years ago.
That's amazing.
Well, just shows you how old I'm getting.
No, but I mean, but still though, for 1981, you're 22 and you came up with that. I mean, I don't know. I think that's pretty fantastic. Wow. Okay. We got through. Actually, this is running well. I knew we'd probably go to like an hour and a half, and we're kind of there. So not to go any longer in time, but I got some quick ones, and then we can wrap up. But this has been absolutely fabulous. Europe. How did that come about? When you got into Europe, you know that.
I was out in Vegas working with the International Kenpo Karate Association, and I met Jose Maria Gutierrez, who's one of the higher-ranking black belts in their system. And we hit it off, and he really liked what I was doing. So he didn't speak English. So he went home and took English classes so that he could communicate with me and learn AMOK.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the guy learned the language so that we
obviously motivated.
Yeah, so he brought me out to Spain, and when I was out there, I met another guy from the IKKA who was from England, and when he brought me into England, Matt from Sweden came in, and that's how I met Matt.
And that's what created that. Okay.
A lot of time together, right? And so now for the last 15 or 18 years, Matt and I have been going real heavy in Europe.
You've been going there.
There, and so he takes care of all of Scandinavia and all of that. You know, Matt in Europe, he's the man. He's been doing that for many years. He's got it done.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know.
He'll be back there again in October or November.
Yeah, when all this ends. No, I know you've been going there pretty steadily. Yeah.
Well, I decided to say, well, if I'd like to do some camps, Amsterdam would be a great place. So we had the first camp in Amsterdam, and then that filled up. So we did that for a lot of years.
Yeah, Amsterdam. I've never got. Well, hopefully one day. Yeah. Australia. How'd that come about? You're because you had obviously a clan down there and still do. So.
Also, when I was in Vegas, I met a guy named Joe Ellerman who was originally from Hawaii and studied with Ed Parker, and he had a school in New Zealand. So he asked me to go to New Zealand. So I did. And then he told Dave in Hawaii, he said, hey, man, you got to meet this guy, because he was Dave's Kenpo instructor.
Okay.
And when I was in New Zealand, some guy named Steve McHugh, he was an old-time Shotokan fighter from Australia. He came to New Zealand to the seminar, and then he invited me up to Australia. And he set up a tour through Adelaide and Melbourne and Gold Coast and all of those places. It was great. So that's when I met Paul Ciavlis, Steve Sekoulis, and Peter Balabin. And they were together in the school when I met them. And those guys, they really are the ones that planted the AMOK flag and rooted AMOK in Australia.
In Australia, which is still going today, incidentally.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, last. This will take a little longer, but this is going fantastic, right? I'm like right on track for time. Thailand. Okay, so we got Thailand and the camps. Which unfortunately is not happening this year with the obvious, but how did that how did that develop, Thailand and the camps?
Well, after the last trip to the Philippines, all of the guys got together and they came to see me and they said, "Hey, we really enjoy going overseas to train, but we'd rather just go overseas to train with you." So they said, "Can we just go somewhere else?" So that's when I go, "Yeah, sure." So then I was told Thailand was a great place, and we saw that movie, The Beach, and I thought that looked cool, and I wanted to look at it, and I asked the guys, and they said, "Yeah." So we did the Thailand trip, and after that, Randy stayed there, and we've been since going back pretty much every year, and the last couple of years, every other year.
So what? Okay, just again, not to be exact, what year did the camp start there?
2003, I think.
So you've been all right. So with the exception of this year, you've been doing them for a good 16 years.
Yeah, we've done I think at least 15 camps now, anyway.
Oh wow! I mean
So,
that.
yeah.
I mean, I heard the great Gary. I mean, when Gary when he came back, I mean, he shared with me. And he said it was fantastic. I mean, it was great. Yeah.
You get off and there's an awesome breakfast waiting for everybody, and everybody laughs and has breakfast, and then we go up and train from 9 to 1. It's a hard 4 hours, and when we're done, everyone jumps in the pool and swims up to the bar, and then we go down and get a $6 foot massage, and we tell each other silly jokes and laugh for a while. And every afternoon everybody can run off, and there's a million adventures to take and things that they can do. And every night we all meet downstairs in the lobby, and we go out and get dinner together and a couple of drinks and laugh and so forth, and then we crash and do it all over again. So
Wow.
on the midday we rent a speedboat and go out to one of the local beaches where they have a restaurant, and we just party on the beach and drink and eat and laugh all day. So it's solid, hard, really good training for a whole week, and a great time with a whole bunch of fantastic buddies every night.
Man, and obviously it goes without saying, if you're single, you're single. God knows where it can go. Yeah. But
yeah, that too. But and again, look, there are lots of married guys. We go there, we have a beer or two after dinner and crash, because especially as older guys, the other thing is we all get up early to train too. So
it's not like you can pull a really late all nighter, like you're getting up early to train. Brian,
it's a great camp. This year we had to reschedule, but next year we're going to go from August 1st to the 7th. We've already got the dates out and stuck it up there. And my flights from this year, I didn't take a refund. I just took a travel voucher. So camp is there.
Yeah, right.
I'm ready to go.
And then is there? What's the area you consistently go to? What's the area?
We go to Pattaya.
Pattaya. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Brian just mentioned that. Love Pattaya, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna do abomination on this. Phuket.
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 Well,
Okay.
Phuket,
Okay.
Yeah, Phuket's beautiful too, but it's another flight, a couple of hours south, and it's a little bit more expensive. So most of the guys, when we finish camp, a lot of the guys stick around for another 4 or 5 or 6 days, and they train together, or they go and they take travel adventures, and they go out to the Thai, to the railway, or all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's usually what I've heard. Few days afterwards and bounce around a little bit, because there's so much to see, and everything is so unbelievably affordable when you're there.
Yeah, I mean, Gary was telling me it's ridiculous just how cheap things were. I mean, the food. I mean, just like the lodging, the food. I mean, just everything. Just this was fantastic. This is going to be a home run for you. This is gonna get a lot of likes and comments. This was phenomenal, and again, I am just so appreciative of you coming on again. I know this has been your third time, and I'm just so grateful because you came on the first episode, and then you were on the third episode, and we finally got you on with the book and all that. And again, I'm just so appreciative that you took your time to do this.
Well, Dean, let me say thank you to you first for the opportunity. It was a really great time. I really enjoyed doing this. And I want to thank all of you guys who sent questions, and everybody who showed up to be here with us tonight, and Roger and Brian and Michael and all of you guys. I really appreciate you spending your time to be here. And I really hope that maybe sometime in the near future, somehow we're all together working out and having a good time somewhere. That's what I really hope for all of us.
Well,
So,
like you, I got a voucher when I bring Dave back up, and Mike, Dave's student down there in Mississippi, is planning on coming up with them. So hopefully, if you can, that'd be a nice opportunity for all four of us to.
yeah, right on, for sure.
Just before we leave, though, I wanted, just for people who have not gotten your book, is it okay? Amazon still the best
Yeah.
place to go?
But you know what they can do too if they forget is they can just go to tomsotis.com. My website there will show you some different stuff that I'm up to. And then when they click on where it says book, it shows them the book and a preview to it. And if they click on it, the link brings them to Amazon. Or they can go right to Amazon and put my name in the search bar and do it that.
Okay, so they can either tomsotis.com or they can go to Amazon. This last time with Guy Chase. So either tomsotis.com or Amazon, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then also, for those who are interested in maybe seeing what AMOK is about, I highly recommend to go on amokglobal.com. They're
No, it's just amok.global.
Huh?
It's amok.global, not .com.
Oh, I'm sorry. Corrected. Wonderful videos on there that you can get for a reasonably monthly fee. That is just really good content and all that. And those who want to pursue more than that and go to trainer route, the videos are there and all that. And I think we lost time. Anyway,
Oops, my camera's
I hear you. I can still hear you.
Oh, well, I don't know what happened, but my camera went off somehow.
It's all right. I'm about to wrap up anyhow. But again, thank you and all that. And it was wonderful having you on again.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Talk to everybody soon.
Yes, I'll be in touch for Saturday.
Okay, yeah, right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Those of you who watched, thank you so much for coming on and watching. Those are fantastic questions. Those who hand-submitted questions, thank you again for that. This Thursday, as I was mentioning in the beginning, Guru Gilbert out of Canada, we're going to be having him on, and he's this is a system I know nothing about or even heard of for that matter. The Rutano Estocada system, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But at any rate, so this should be interesting, just hearing about a system that I never heard about, and all that. So that's this Thursday again at 7. Again, thank you all for watching. And if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube. Thank you, and good night.